Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to be talking about second year semester 1. So for those of you that don't know, I am a January intake this time round, and that means that my academic year starts back in January, whereas if you do pick the September route, your academic year starts in September. So we tend to get annual leave around the end of the year, Christmas time, whereas September intake tend to get their annual leave over the summer, bits of it. So I started back in January as a second year student nurse, and our first module back was called Nursing Practice 2. So if you watch my previous videos, you would have heard me talking about Nursing Practice 1 that focused on asthma, COPD and stroke, whereas now this was a new module MPT, so it's similar, but we was looking at different medical conditions and also different topics within this module. So for this module, we looked at multiple sclerosis, diabetes, cancer, chemotherapy, blood products, genetics, nervous system, chronic pain, the acute abdomen, disability, wound care, and forms of communication. So this was a double module, so it ran on its own, and we had between 6 to 8 weeks of teaching, and at this point we was still at university, and by the time we had finished it was time for another placement. So throughout the weeks we was building on our knowledge and learning new things and being able to adapt to a new level of I'd say a new level of knowledge, really, because obviously we were stepping it up from year 1 and then being able to still use the skills that we've used in year 1 and then relating them to this new year 2 module and showing basically how much knowledge you actually accumulate and how you start to form the pieces together. Because that's one thing that I've learned, to be honest. You always think that you don't know anything throughout this course. It can be a bit shifty. You think, oh, I've forgotten this and I've forgotten that, and I don't really know what I'm doing. But strangely enough, you will find that in the time when you need to know it will come back to you somehow. Like, you can't just think about it on the spot, but when someone asks you, you just blurt it out. Because I remember that had happened to me one time. Somebody must have asked me a question, and sometime last year I wouldn't have been able to answer it. I would have been a bit like but somehow I managed to answer the question, and then I looked at myself and thought, how did you know that? So the point I'm trying to make is you do store knowledge along the way and don't actually realise it. But anyway, back to the module. So we was taught all the aspects of the module and shown the stuff that we would need to go home and revise within our self-directed study, and we were scheduled to have the exam for this in the beginning of April. So once the teaching block had finished at university, it was time to do another placement. So this was the first placement of second year, and this was exciting for everyone, really, because it was our first placement in a new level of responsibility and going up a level. We've now gone from level 4, we're now level 5 now, obviously level 6 being the end point for university. So we got an extra stripe what we can stitch onto our uniform to show that we've gone up a level. The first stripe's red, and then you get a blue one and another blue when you're in year 3. So we had a red and blue now, so it was exciting. My first placement for second year, I was allocated a community placement with the district nurses, and I had never, throughout my whole years of working in different healthcare settings, I'd never actually worked in the community or alongside any district nurse or HCA in the district or assistant practitioner. I've never worked alongside any of them, so to me it was kind of exciting in a way, because it was actually going to see something and work in a setting that I've never worked in before and see the different side. And I felt like, yeah, I was a bit apprehensive because I'd never been, or I don't really know anything about the job, but I thought that's part of the training. This is the ideal time to visit a setting like that, so I was a bit optimistic about this placement. So this was meant to be an 8-week block, and I started this placement in, when did we start now? Say like the beginning of March we'd started, and the first couple of weeks it was good. It was like learning the basics. So you'd come in the morning and we'd meet at the base, and then when you meet at the base, obviously I'd meet my practice supervisor / mentor if you run the old course, and we would basically have a caseload and on an iPad. So we would start the visits in the morning and we would go and do the morning visits, and then we'd come back to the base to have something to eat and lunch, and then you'd go out again and do the rest of the caseload for that day. It was a good experience. It was really different. One thing that I found hard at the beginning was getting used to the hours, because all the jobs I'd ever worked were like 12-hour shifts or every other day, like there weren't set days as such. But with this placement I was doing Monday to Friday for a mix of shifts, and I've never ever been a Monday to Friday worker in all the jobs that I've ever done. So that was really hard, having to get up 5 days in the week really early and traveling to placement, but I started to get used to it. I'm not going to go too much into this placement as I want to do my own video on district nursing, but overall this placement was really good because it showed me a different side of nursing. I've always been shown what goes on in the hospital and what nurses do in the hospital and what other staff in the hospital, how it all works in the hospital. So it was really good to see what actually happens on the outside the hospital wards. And I feel like this is important to know also, because whether I pick to work in the hospital or not, if I do work in the hospital and I've got a patient that needs to be discharged and has never had the district nurses involved in their care before, I'll be able to give kind of a perspective of what services they can offer and what they do, because I've seen it and I've experienced it and I've worked alongside them. So it's about being able to give your patient more information. Obviously for other people that go on community placements, they really love it and may choose to work there also, but it's all part of the learning experience. So here it comes. So during this placement, I didn't actually get to finish this placement to the end. I was allocated this placement for 8 weeks, so 2 months, and I managed to do a month because this is when COVID-19 had first come about. Not as in it's first come back because it was around from the year before, but I mean as in this is when we started putting cautions and interventions in place. So this is when we started all the social distancing and all the shielding and self-isolation and all that stuff, and the PPE. This is around that time when that all started. So when we was prior to, about a week before we went into lockdown, was when I was told that we was gonna that changes were gonna be happening. So this was the week before lockdown. I remember this is when all these rules started coming out, and then we had to then start following a rule where, because I had to travel around with a nurse, that were saying that basically we just carry on as normal. So we was carrying on as normal, as going to shift, but as the days went on, this is obviously when we was getting more information and updates were coming more. I know some of the students in my cohort were taken off placement before then or couldn't continue because of health conditions, but I was still going on. And then it started then, the phone clicked and we said, well, with this 2 meters apart, how is that going to work? How is that going to work when obviously I have to travel around with my mentor and I'm sitting right next to her in the car? Social distancing isn't going to work. And I know that they were saying that a lot of people and a lot of students on community were asking the same thing. Cut a story short, basically we got taken off placement because social distancing couldn't be maintained. I didn't get to finish it, but I did do a month, and that month did teach me a lot. So with all these announcements, we all become a bit uneasy and unsteady. We didn't know what was going on. We just had instructions that to await instructions from university, and just to carry on with our portfolios or pads, whatever your uni calls them. In the meantime, they'd be in touch. So it was then the waiting game then, and then we was just collating our thoughts and just moving along with how the world was going, because obviously we was watching the news as well. We had academic work to complete because we still had revision to do for the exam for nursing practice 2, because we'd had the teaching for that. So we continued revising and awaited instructions, and that was pretty much it. So semester 1 wasn't as sturdy as last year, but that's no one's fault. Nobody foresaw this, and nobody foresaw that COVID-19 was going to have such an impact on the world, but we've managed to get through it. After waiting a few weeks for some information off you, presented this opt-in or opt-out decision. As you can imagine, this was a really stressful time for us, as you know, normally you're used to completing your whole block of placement and then to be removed halfway through. We didn't know what to think and what to expect, but that will come clear. very soon. Throughout the meantime, we continue to get on with our academic work and revising for the upcoming exam. We also then waiting for a decision from the uni. That's all I'm going to touch upon today, but in the next video I'm going to talk about the opt-in and opt-out decision what we had and what is to come with now doing online learning from home as university is now closed due to COVID-19, and how that has impacted us all and that impacts the rest of the course. Also, I just wanted to add, I have now had 2 more modules launched as I'm approaching the second half of second year. So due to that, I won't be posting as regularly as I was, which was every day I was posting a video, but obviously with my new work commitments and workload, they shall be every other day, or possibly 2 times or 3 times a week depending on that workload, but there will be something to watch every week. Thank you for everyone that's continued to watch, support and share the videos. Get to comment, like, subscribe, and please share, as we are now approaching the present, as I said we would from the beginning, and now we're going to start touching on topics that I said I would discuss, and topics that will give loads of information on loads of different things. So I just wanted to tell you all thank you, and stay safe, stay alert, all of that, and take care. Goodbye.